Hi. If I asked you about the state of your team, what's happening with your team and with your organization, you're likely to give me a response that's aligned to how you feel about the team, how you feel about the organization. So you'll be looking at it through your lens. So let us take a step further. And if I ask you, what are the key ingredients for success for your team? What is it that would drive? What are the drive the team to excellence? What are the key success factors? Are they uniformly evident in your team and in your organization? Let us go even further. What about blind spots and limiting factors? Are you clear? And is the team clear about things that could be hindering their growth and development? Let me show you some undercurrents, because we might be in a team and we're saying, oh yeah, it's all right, we get along well and we get the job done, more or less. Yeah. But let us look at some of these statistics. Workplace mistakes. Approximately 70% of workplace mistakes are attributed to poor communication. Yeah, but we have been talking from we are kids, from we are little toddlers. So how can communication be a problem? But every time we do an employee satisfaction survey or any kind of intervention with organization, communication is at the heart of it. And then here's another one. So poor communication practices can account for up to 47% loss in productivity. Yeah. And of course, we know that when you have communication breakdown, it actually impacts the client. Whoever it is that you're working to serve, somehow you can't contain it inside. What happens inside eventually manifests itself on the outside. Here's another one. Keeping good talent is a real challenge over the years, and even more so now, where people are seeking to do things on their own. So keeping good talent is hard. But it says here that unresolved conflicts can cause up to 50% of good employees to leave. And then, of course, there's the whole question of the morale, which, of course, then also feeds back into performance. Hi, I'm Trevor E.S. Smith. I'm with the Success with People Academy, a part of the InfoServe group, and I'll be your host through this week's Success with People live class. We'll be here for not more than 35 minutes. So please stick around. We're going to invite you really to give us this time, because sometimes I think most of you listening might have done some psychometric assessment at some point, whether it is to get a job or, some point in time. But many people get it and it's filed away. I want to say something. When we look at our health, if you go to the doctor is going to check your pressure. Maybe he give you some blood workup, so that he can actually see what's happening. So there are diagnostics before prognosis. So we can't say that we are in good health unless we have had some kind of diagnostic work done on us. I personally, every year, I do an executive profile, complete workup, so that I can have some idea as to what's happening with me. No, for me, behavioral assessments and similar diagnostics are critical to understanding the health of the organization. But what do? HR might use behavioral assessments, but what do they use it to do? They use it to have the 3 or 4 final candidates, and they do an assessment, and then they file it away. The candidate doesn't even get the assessment. Neither is it shared with the team leader who is going to manage that individual. Yeah. So nothing comes of it, basically, except that you feel more comfortable that you have hired somebody that is a good fit for the job, hopefully. And I'm saying that that really doesn't make any sense. It's like, going to get all of these tests done and the doctor keeps it and doesn't say anything to you about the results. You have no idea of how to change behavior and what's happening to you. That's what is happening in the world of behavior. And behavior is central to how the organization functions. So we have the possibility of getting a full blood workup, if you want, behaviorally, on the team, on individuals, but we don't do it. And even if we do it, we keep the information without sharing it to people who need it. So that's basically our journey. I just want you to work with me because this is a completely different approach, and you will see why I'm taking this approach to this whole question of behavioral analysis and the value of the behavioral analysis and how to actually use it. There's a lot of misconceptions out there. And in this little time that I have, as a matter of fact, let me tell you the truth. I'm inviting you at the end. Go right ahead. I'm saying to you, if you want to hear more and to be able to ask tough questions with your team, I'm offering you a free webinar. Seriously, send me an email at info@successwithpeople.org, and I will come online, of course, and do a webinar where your team can ask questions and we go through what is it I'm saying, why is it that I'm saying, and what you should do about it. Okay? So please, take me up on that. All right, so let's talk about team health because that's basically what it is. And so I like to go to root causes. So sometimes, we do band-aid things and it doesn't really, that don't help us at all. But we can really build high-performing teams, which is basically what we are seeking on faulty foundation. And so over the years, we have always consistently used behavioral diagnostics to gain some insights. I'm going to share some more with you as we go along into not only the individual behaviors, but how do we pull the whole thing together? You have your psychometric assessment, your behavioral assessment that you did. I have mine, Mary has hers, John. What happens when you pull them all together? Does anybody understand what that means? Yes. So by myself, I'm fine. Yeah. By yourself, but what happens when we pull it together? How do we communicate in a way that you hear me? When I say hear now, I'm not talking about just, the words coming through, but the empathy, the understanding. I, quote unquote, hear you in a way that you want to be heard. How do I give you instructions or receive instructions from you? How do I give you feedback and receive feedback from you? The issue of giving advice. It's not an easy thing. It's not an easy thing. Some of you might have experienced that where you really, from a deep-seated interest in supporting somebody, gave them advice. And boy, did that turn out badly. Part of it has to do with this language of behavior that we talk about. That's part of our model that we use, the discerning communication model, where we actually teach people how to speak this language of behaviors that let them get heard in a way that they want to be heard, and to reduce a lot of conflict, etc. So how do you communicate them? How do you give and receive instructions? How do you give and receive feedback? What about your fit? I'm gonna come to this. You see that up on the right? That map on the right, believe you me, especially now after all the disruption and post-COVID, I've seen this map and it is scary in a sense, and I'll tell you why. But that map is critical in terms of understanding where the team is as a whole, in terms of its responsibilities. Right? So that's something that we need to look at when we talk about resilience and all of those factors. Let's look at some maps. So I'm suggesting that we can unleash the power of behavioral DNA diagnostics. And we put in the DNA because the assessments that we're talking about are granular. Go right down. There's a whole hundreds of behavioral assessments. And for each individual, you could actually match them against every single behavioral assessment. But of course, you don't want to do that. You want to look at the role and you want to see what are critical behaviors that will help the individual to deliver from in this role. right, from their preferred behavioral style. And the assessment process is simple. Basically, what happens is the organization sends us a list, you know, of the individuals. They send an email address and their role. What is it? Okay. So we then set up assessments, send back links individually to the email address this that we get. The individuals spend 7 to 10 minutes. They should. And some persons try to write a thesis. It's just some questions to answer. It's you have 24 choices to make, and in
each box of choices, you have 4 options, and you're going to choose one that is most like you and one that is least like you. The extended this assessment that we use a multi-phrase. So you have 4 multi-phrase selections that gives additional accuracy to the assessment. I before that I used to use one of the traditional disc assessments, and you could see people the single word people playing around with it. Not what happens so with the extended disc analysis. So you get it, 7 to 10 minutes. Bam, the report goes back to you as you complete it, and it goes to your team leader or whoever, your HR department, etc. Done. And then, of course, we have the option then to dig deeper using the things playground, where you can actually put up the individual and match them against any one of the hundreds of competencies. We can also then create team maps where you can see how the team fits together. That's where we want to go. So if you look, for example, at the right, you're not going to see it fully there, but there is that those reds, those would be the ideal. So you could actually see the match. The further to the right is the more comfortable the individual is with performing each competence, displaying the competence, and the further to the left is the more challenging it is. We're not saying that you can't do it. All we are saying is that you have to reflect more. It takes more energy in order for you to do it. So it helps you to understand then, why am I so stressed out when I have to do this, as against, I'm feeling comfortable doing this. That's basically the concept behind it, right? And let me just disabuse you of something, so that I increase my credibility. There are people out there that are saying, this DISC framework that we're talking about says there are only 4 types of people, and that's foolishness, because they are not only, you can't say there are only 4 types of people. That's not what it is saying. No, that's not it. What Jung said is that if you can classify the way that people navigate through life, how we approach life. You can classify their approaches, their philosophy, their mindsets. That's what it is. I like to say that there are 4 bags of tools that we use to navigate through life. And we all, at some point in time, use different bags. And if you talk about classification, if you look at grammar, that's what we do. We classify nouns, and it helps us to be able to speak a language. We classify verbs. We don't just put all the words there and we don't know whether this is an adjective or verb, whether this is subject or object. So classifications help us. It's a framework for understanding things. And that's all that Jung has done. He says, here are 4 classifications to help us to better understand how people relate to each other, how people navigate through life, how people prefer to be heard, how people prefer to communicate. That's it. 4 approaches. So that's basically it. And within, just to get into a little technical, within those 4 areas, with extended disc, there are 40 unique styles that are identified in each one of these 4 areas on the extended disc diamond, and millions, literally millions of lines of text. So the likelihood of you getting a report, as I have done in the past when I used to use the traditional disc tools that are identical, is highly unlikely. So let's move forward here. Right? If you want to get deeper and ask me more questions, please take up my offer to come and have just like this online webinar, but you can be more interactive, and we can put in a little bit more time. But let me talk about this a little bit. So when we do the behavioral assessments, we don't just file it. We actually give it to the individual, and then we pull it together in a series of diagnostics, team diagnostics. One of them is the so-called arrow map. Why is it an arrow map? Because what it extended this does, it picks up your natural style and your perceived need to adjust. So some of us know that how we are at home is different from how we are at work. So what we'll want to look at is, who are you naturally if you're on a desert island, right? And how are you behaving in this environment? If your friends were describing you, what would they say about you? So the back of the arrow is your natural you, and the tip of the arrow is the perceived need to adjust. So that's basically what it does. So what the map does then is to not only tell you how individuals are positioned on the map, where are we? How does this individual relate to this individual who is at a significantly different area of the map? Those things matter. Let me tell you honestly, when I do workshops, interventions with teams, I like to put up the map, whether it's this one or the name map, or just the shotgun map, and just wait, sit at the back and just hear the team diagnose themselves. Oh my gosh, so that is why. Now I understand. That's it, because now they are seeing why communication might be a challenge here, why this person behaves in this kind of way, all sorts of things. When we have that kind of level of self-awareness, we understand. And one of the things we do with our discerning communication and leadership model is that we help people to diffuse it then. So it is not that this person is a terrible person, they just communicate differently from you. And so we just neutralize the friction by saying all that we have here is a difference in communication. And if you can just step back and understand that some of your ways of communicating is also frustrating to this individual, and so we need to just understand where we're coming from. So it's not bad me, it's just that we communicate differently. And that, by the way, removes a ton of conflict. I can tell you that from years of working with teams and using the framework. All right. So let's look at another revolution as it comes to the use of the behavioral assessment. And this one is even more important now that disruption and the fast pace of change is taking place. So organizations are talking about resilience. How do we come out of COVID? Did some organizations come out faster than others? Are some still struggling? That question of ability to adapt to change, etc. So let me give you some background. So years ago, I went to a Caribbean nation to do some work with governmental, public sector, middle management. Right? The entire map looked even more dynamically than this. Left-sided heavily towards compliance, status quo management, systems, accountability, etc. There was over here, I had to say, change, renewal, decisiveness, innovation, creativity. None, not even one individual that's on the right side. So, and that's what I'm seeing here, a replica of this with organizations, because, and I hope that I don't have any recruiters, because there has been in the past a tendency towards safety. That you don't want to employ anybody that's going to come and kick over the bucket of meal. You want to have people that are compliant, come to work on time, and don't give any trouble. So we tend to weed out those persons who are probably now being sought after as disruptors, thinking out of the box. And yeah, HR didn't want to have those kind of problems because they would have them coming at their desk every day. Come on, send Trevor over there again. You have students who are in the principal's office all the time. HR don't want that. And so as a result of that, we have teams that are heavily compliance oriented. We don't have teams that are heavily out of the box thinking, willingness to take chances, not risk averse, creative, innovative. That's the problem that we have. So as we go forward now, we're creativity, innovation, and those kinds of things are critical if we are going to be resilient. We don't have the teams. I've seen these maps now. You just have to shake your head because what are they going to do? Because they can't fire them. So one of the things that you have to do then is to look at change management, resilience, those kinds of things. I also do quite a lot of work with leaders, that come to me with their assessment and they say, okay, fine, I've got the assessment and I want some support in terms of understanding it. Help me to unlock my blind spots and limiting factors. And it's the same thing. A lot of them are left-sided. And what we want now is to help people to develop some of that right-sidedness, which is the direct, the driven, the decisive, the innovative, the creative. That's what it is. So if you don't believe that there's magic, if you want to call it that, in getting the assessments and working with the team, it's not just getting the assessments and filing them. You need to have expertise, people that understand them and be able to interpret and build a process of development around it, guided by the diagnostics. Yes, so that's basically the idea. So how do we go about then creating this high performing environment? As we say, we do the assessment. So the first ball game is that everybody does the assessments, we analyze it. And by the way, the assessments are role related. So the accountants, finance people probably will get something different from the brand managers and from HR, etc. So everybody gets their own role, have a ideal template that looks at how well do they fit into their role. So we have this ideal thing to, if we could create someone to do this job, this is how they would behave. So those are the behaviors that create that template. Let me actually just rush back here. So that's the right side here. These are the red ideal templates. And we select then a range of behaviors that helps us to give a role fit then. Is this individual a good fit for the role? And so on the right side, you would see, okay, these competencies come easily with this individual. These areas are areas for development. They have to focus a little bit more. So what we do then is that we say, okay, fine, you're going to take 3 or 4 of the areas that you're a good fit and reinforce those. We don't want you to give up on what has brought you here, your success so far. So we look at 3 or 4 of those, and then we work with them to say, okay, fine, let us find 3 or 4. And for every 90 days, you're going to work assiduously at getting more comfortable with those 3 or 4 that we're doing. And then after that 90 days, hopefully those become more comfortable. That's what the neuroscience says. And then you move on to another set. And of course, during that 90-day period, you're going to be focused. You might even have to diarize it, put it in your calendar. Remember when you go to work today to do this. And we give you literature. We have, by the way, a bag of not only books, manuals, all sorts of things to support the process, to help the individuals to get to a place where they can get more comfortable doing the things that will drive them to success. That's basically the concept, right? And the idea is that we teach what we call a big language of behaviors, how you communicate. How do I talk to Don, give Don instructions in a way that Don responds, gets it done right away, as against how I would give it to Suzanne or Calvin or Ivan. 4 different approaches. So you're saying, I'm going to drive me crazy. I can't talk to 4. But how do you not? So, we have done work with organizations where the CEO is communicating in a way that only a fraction of his team is getting it. The others are, ooh. So how do you leave people who you want to perform at their best out of the picture? So that's part of the thing that we have to challenge leaders. Leaders needs to communicate in ways that all styles hear it, receive it in a way that they want to receive it. That's critical. And that is, by the way, how you avoid dysfunctional behavior. That's how you avoid conflict. That's how you drive high performance. That's basically where we go with this. So I've sort of covered this. What it is the key is to get team members to communicate better with each other. So I know how to give you instructions. I know how you might respond when I give you instructions, I give you feedback. I understand it's not that you're terrible. I understand we just have a difference. And so I can say to you, Trevor, lower your D. If you look at the D style, Trevor, and I can hear you better, Trevor, if you lower your D. You might say to me, hey, Calvin, please don't sleep on this. I need an urgent decision today. I know you need to get more data and so on, but please, can we talk about how we can get to a decision more quickly than you're comfortable with? That's the kind of dialogue that we have. Instead of saying, oh my gosh, man, this man can never make up his mind. Why we can't get a decision? We can navigate through that kind of cloud, that kind of problem by understanding what it is that how I want to receive my information, how you want to get it, how do we communicate so we understand each other better. That's where we start to work in harmony. And when we're working in harmony, we're going to be better off. All right? So that's basically what I wanted to share. It's a quick overview, but I went through quickly because I still have the invitation. I'm saying to you, if you want to have a discourse around this, free, no cost, send me an email, info@successwithpeople.org. And we set up a webinar where your team can ask me questions. You know what? The price, the value of that, trust me. All right. So I can't do it with everybody, but if the early birds can send me an email, I will have a discourse and you can ask me all the tough questions, all the things where you read about why this don't make sense and why this makes sense. Send me an email and we can deal with it. Right? And I can promise you I can make a difference. And you can see it for yourself. When we do the diagnostics, you will understand yourself better. You will understand how you can communicate. We have, nice text to help you how to relate to others from your preferred behavioral style, and how to get best results from your, colleagues. All of that is available. So, what are the next steps? I would suggest that you have this course. Put the offer to your team. If you're not the leader, say that you have this offer. Would they like to take it up? Send me an email and we can do the webinar. But you can also share this live class, right? You either can send the link that you use, or if you can go to our YouTube channel, youtube.com at Success with People Academy. Success with People Academy. You can remember the 5735, but if you put it into the search in YouTube, you will see Success with People Academy. And you can get all the live class, not just this one. All right? And I'm willing to share. And if you just are quick and want to do something, you can just actually WhatsApp me, 876-535-6677. So who are we? Success with People Academy is a division of the InfoServe Group. We are actually SHRM recertification providers. What that means basically is that because we are authorized to provide professional development credits for people who want to recertify for their SHRM CP or SHRM SCP, it really means that we operate at a international standard, a highly professional standard. So whenever we give a certificate or do work, it means that we're operating at high international standards. And what we do, we use this discerning model of communication and leadership, and also our REAL leadership framework to guide teams. All of what we do is based on using granular diagnostics. We really believe in getting to the root, and so we use extended DISC, and the extension talks to the level of granularity and the depth that you get from the report. And it's on this Revolutionary Things platform. Right? Let's have a conversation. Send me a WhatsApp, 876-535-6677, or send me an email at info@successwithpeople.org. If you got any value from that, share the link with someone, and we look forward to seeing you next week as we do the next live class. Thank you.